It's now time for Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. It's the only daily boxing talk show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. Talkin' Boxing with Billy C is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
Live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're listening. I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show is being brought to you in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located on St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com. Or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Men on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold, and you can get a copy of it right now while you're watching or listening to this show. Just visit barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com. You want a signed copy? No problem. Just visit the website, billycboxing.com, and click on the book. It'll give you directions. Now, you want more than one copy? I love it. Just drop me an email directly, billy@talkinboxing, TALKINBOXING.com. Coming up a little bit later on the show, we have Boxing Hall of Famer and New Jersey Boxing Commissioner joining us, Larry Hazzard. Now, we're not going to be doing our blast from the past today. We'll bring that back next week. We've had some unexpected days off. My fault. No catastrophes, but it was just some issues that came up for me. So we are not going to do the blast, but that will be back next week, better than ever. And I'll tell you about who we're going to do that on next week when we come back. Today, got a lot of stuff to talk about. We got some listener emails. We got some updates. We will not be doing a live show tomorrow, but we'll be back to end the week. So a little note there. Hopefully we'll be back to normal next week. A lot of stuff happening. I want to start off with one of the hottest topics in boxing right now, and that's the heavyweight division, specifically a unification, 100% unification between Anthony Joshua, who has every title except for one, going up against Deontay Wilder, who has the one title that Anthony Joshua seeks. Now, this fight is huge for the heavyweight division, but it's even bigger, in my opinion, for the sport of boxing. I mean, so goes the heavyweight, what they say is how the heavyweight goes, so goes boxing, or how the heavyweight division goes, so goes boxing, whatever. We've been hearing a lot of stuff from both camps. And Deontay Wilder has started this pounding his chest. He's the best. Everybody's scared. They were scared of him. They were all scared of me, you know. And it bothers me personally. That's one of the things that bothers me because, you know, you guys, the boxing fans, don't really get a full picture. You know, when you hear one side, they don't want to fight me. You know, you don't hear the other side, that they offered you a fight or whatever. Well, a lot of this has been going on in the press. We offered this, we don't want it, we're insulted, blah, blah, blah. Well, today's main topic is simply this. Does Deontay Wilder even want this this fight? Because his team hasn't responded. The Anthony Joshua and Barry Hearn, his promoter, made an offer last week, $12.5 million to fight Anthony Joshua. It was a 2-fight deal. First fight being in the UK, second fight being in the U.S. And, they made the offer. A lot of us thought it was a great offer. It was $10 million more than any other fight that Deontay Wilder made. His team kind of responded through the media saying that they were insulted by the offer. Well, it was released yesterday that they haven't responded. They haven't officially responded with any kind of a counter offer or anything like that. My question is, does Deontay Wilder really want this fight? Does his team really want it? Is all the trash talk and everything finally caught up on him? Because time is the enemy here. The bottom line is that Anthony Joshua has a mandatory. And if he doesn't, that clock is ticking. It's already in the 30-day max of a negotiation period. So they have to get this deal done. And, at least a counteroffer should be made. I don't know. Joining me right now, Sal Rocky Senecola. Sal, what's your thoughts on this situation?
My initial thoughts as I was listening to your detailed explanation is that Deontay Wilder is just playing a little hardball. In other words, I think he's letting the clock wind down a little bit. I think we will hear some counter or some words from his camp. And it's just typical the minutia, as I like to call it, dancing through the ropes here and tangling them up a little bit before they straighten them out. And I really think that's something that he's just holding his cards right now. He will come out with a counter, and I think he's going to wait till the time is right on his mind and on his agenda. So we'll see. Well, it might be the 11th hour, Bill.
Well, unfortunately, he doesn't get to drive. This fight's got to happen. Unfortunately, he doesn't get to drive the bus because the situation here is simple. Anthony Joshua, the titles, even though a lot of us, specifically myself, feel that the titles shouldn't be the driving force with fighters once they reach a certain level of fame. The issue here is that he's got a clock ticking for a mandatory title defense against Alexander Povetkin as being imposed by the WBA. So the only way that he could postpone that, so to speak, is to have a signed, sealed, delivered contract in place with Deontay Wilder. So, you suggest, he's waiting for the 11th hour. Well, that 11th hour isn't the 29th day. They have to have a signed contract. So you would have thought that any team at this point would have said, hey, 12.5, no, we want XYZ, and then wait for a counteroffer. They're dragging their feet too long. It makes me feel like they really don't want this fight because they know that this fight, if it's not made right now, we won't see this fight until sometime 2019. I think that's Wilder's plan.
I don't think we don't know what's going to happen 2019. One of these guys could lose a fight in between. One of these guys could get have a life-changing accident. So the smart move and the only move is to make this fight now. They should make it a 3-fight deal. If each fighter wins the 2 fights with the rematch, then they should have a 3-fight deal in place for a rubber match. But that might be a little ambitious. That might be a little bit looking into that Nostradamus hat of ours. But the bottom line is, I really feel that Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder do know how big this fight is. And I really feel that each of these combatants really, truly want to fight the other guy. And like I said, if this was taken, this $12.5 million taken by the Deontay Wilder camp as an insult, like I think they're just holding their cards. They're just going to pull back, and they're going to start with a counter probably of $20 million or something, and then maybe they'll settle it at $16, $15 million. I don't know. That's how a lot of this stuff works. So, I think we will hear this week from Deontay Wilder's side, and I think it will be a counter offer, probably in the $20 million area.
Anthony Joshua has stated again through the media, which they shouldn't really be doing. To be honest with you, they should be negotiating. And Eddie Hearn is actually in New York, or will be in New York. He's they got an event going on. So, and rumor has it that AJ will be there as well. And according to multiple reports, Anthony Joshua feels that he wants to meet Deontay Wilder face to face, meaning that he would like to talk to him himself. Forget the media, forget the business side of it. He wants to talk to him man on man. And, again, he hasn't heard anything back from the loudmouth Deontay Wilder. And the truth of the matter is that Wilder made that as his excuse why he didn't go over to England when Joseph Parker, when Anthony Joshua fought Joseph Parker. If you recall, Deontay Wilder said, "Oh well, he doesn't want to meet me. They're not letting me go near him. They're not letting me go in the ring," which was all BS. My question here is that, by Anthony Joshua kind of saying, "Hey, I want to meet Wilder. I want to hear stuff from his mouth myself, one-on-one." Is the smack talk getting to Anthony Joshua? It seems like he's kind of being hurt by the trash talking, and he made a comment, and I'll quote it. He says, "When you're a fighter, you can't let certain things slide." He was referring to some of the smack talk that's been released in the media coming from Deontay Wilder and or his team. Is the smack talk getting to Anthony Joshua, in your opinion?
I don't know if it's getting to him as we would think under his skin or so. No, but I think, like I said, this fight's got to be signed, sealed, and delivered by a certain date. And I think maybe it's agitating him maybe a little bit. Maybe he's not feeling respected. Maybe he's not feeling like Deontay Wilder's really serious. So I think it's a really nice move or bold move on his part. Hey, let me come to your backyard. Let's meet at the Blarney Stone for a non-alcoholic Irish coffee, and let's discuss this mano a mano. And you never know. But I think this would be a very bold, big move on Anthony Joshua's part, and definitely disclaim any end of hey, who's calling who out. I think this will be a good meeting if they should be able to meet one-on-one and have this talk. That would be a stellar. That would be great, and maybe it'll be happening next week. Who knows?
Well, time is. I've stated this before. Time is everyone's enemy, but in boxing, it's even more prominent. And in this case, not only is time an enemy in terms of fighters getting older, other opportunities, et cetera, you got the WBA kind of putting pressure on Team Wilder. On Team AJ, on Joshua. And Deontay Wilder, he's made so much noise about how he wants to fight Anthony Joshua, and Joshua's ducking him, and nobody wants to fight him. Nobody's accomplished what he's accomplished, blah, blah, blah. The rhetoric is just, it's such a joke. I mean, and now there's an offer on the table. At least I would have liked to have heard, what, are you kidding? Forget it. We're not. If his team directly reached out to AJ's team and said, forget it, we're not fighting for that. At least you have that, etched in stone that they responded. It seems like if they're doing what you suggest, Sal, and waiting and trying to boil the pot a little more, they're shooting themselves in the foot, because at some point the negotiations have to shift to Alexander Povetkin for Team AJ. He's in the driver's seat because he's got other opportunities. Deontay Wilder could fight another bum and not be subjected to any kind of reprimand from the WBC, because he's already made his WBC obligation, and he's got, whatever that is, another 8 months before they would start forcing him to fight their mandatory. So, it's looking like, and then the IBF has a mandatory after the WBA. So, I mean, if Deontay Wilder doesn't make a move, and you're saying, oh, maybe we're going to hear something by the end of this week. Well, the end of this week isn't that far away. And, if they're going to go back and forth, oh, I'll do it for this, oh, no, we'll offer you that, you need more time. And, that clock is ticking. I think that there can't realistically, for them to cut a deal before the Povetkin fight would go to a purse bid, you got to give a couple of weeks to negotiate a deal with Povetkin. So I think that they have to get this deal done by this time next week. I mean, that would still only leave, if they don't, that would still only leave Team AJ a couple of weeks to set up a deal with Povetkin. This isn't like a new fight that just came on the horizon, Sal. Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder have been on a collision course for quite some time. I'm shocked that Wilder's team has not responded. The only thing that I can think of is that they don't really want the fight yet. That's what I'm thinking.
No, I'll tell you what, Bill, this fight has to happen. Like you suggested, it's bigger than boxing. This fight has got to happen. And I think Deontay Wilder, like I said, for lack of a better term, maybe being a little slighted or insulted with a $12.5 million, which I think is pretty neat. Pretty good offer to start. I think he's taking this. Hey, guess what? I'm still in the driver's seat because I haven't opened my mouth yet to let you know what I'm thinking. And you're going to be sitting there realizing how valuable I am, because if you want to get in this ring and dance with me, I'm the other half that needs to get in the ring and dance with you. So, like, hypothetically speaking, I don't know what they're doing in and out of or under the table, but I think Deontay Wilder, and if Mitch, our beloved Mitch, is always correct here, what happens after we start the rhetoric and talking about something, tomorrow we're going to hear the news. We're going to hear a counter. We're going to hear something this week from Deontay Wilder's camp that it's either going to be a counter. I don't think it's going to be done at the $12.5 million, but I think we will hear from Deontay Wilder's camp this week, because this fight is too big to lose from either one of the sides of these fighters. There's too much potential for the rematch, for even a trilogy, as I suggested. These guys could be set for life with these two next fights if they fight each other. And I think that's too big to walk away from and to realize just because you want to take another lighter opponent somewhere in between. This is inevitable. This fight should happen this year, and this fight is going to happen this year. I'm really, in my heart of hearts. And they're going to get to the scheduling and going to get to the round table and the discussion by the end of this week. You mark my words.
Well, first of all, AJ does not need Deontay Wilder. That's a fact. We need it. The sport needs it, and you're right. Yeah. AJ needs it for the amount of money, but the guy will still make a ton of money fighting his mandatories, and he's going to have them start lining up. The ball is in Deontay Wilder's hands, and he is the guy that needs AJ. It's not the other way around, and that's the truth. And the sad truth is that Deontay Wilder's team is not handling this on the right way, in the right way, as far as I'm concerned. They should have counteroffered immediately and kept the negotiations open, because by ignoring them, going through the media is not official. So by ignoring Team AJ, they're sending a message that they're not going to take the fight, whether they're insulted with 12.5. And then if that's the case, I would say to Deontay, I'd whisper in his ear, if I could reach up that high, I'd say, hey, your team's telling you that you're insulted for 12.5, but how many fights are you going to have to fight to make 12.5 if you don't take this fight? And I'm not suggesting he has to take it for 12.5. I do feel that he should get a little more, only because of the ramifications and the enormity of this fight. But the truth of the matter is that waiting around and acting, and I'm not saying he is, but in the scenario that you suggested, that he's sitting here waiting because he's the man, that AJ needs him, that is 100% false. AJ does not need him, and if Deontay Wilder goes on and doesn't take this fight, or doesn't even come up with a counteroffer, then he can't say ever again that AJ's ducking him and doesn't want to fight him. He's ruining his own MO by being silent. And if it's not him, if he's on the phone, because we don't know. Deontay Wilder could be up 24 hours a day calling his team saying, make the fight, and we don't know this. So maybe that's why AJ wants to meet Wilder face-to-face. I don't know. But it's not looking good for this fight to happen as quickly as we wanted. It's been announced that AJ's next fight will be against either Deontay Wilder or Alexander Povetkin. It's that simple. And if Deontay Wilder doesn't want to counteroffer or whatever, if he stays silent, then I'm telling you right now, because of the WBA, and truthfully, I blame it on the WBA for even putting Alexander Povetkin in the mix. That was a name that was never even mentioned for a while. Jarrell Miller was, but the WBA putting themselves in the middle of a unification is really it's kind of putting more pressure on Deontay Wilder, who has no connection with the WBA, because he's got to make a decision, because Team AJ has to shift gears and start negotiating with Povetkin.
Yeah, but you will hear this week, Bill, the fight's going to be out in the media, and it's going to be for between $15 and $20 million going to Deontay Wilder, plus a share of some of the U.S. pay-per-view. I feel it, okay, and it's going to happen. And like I said, for Deontay Wilder, even though you suggested that Anthony Joshua doesn't need him, well, guess what? Anthony Joshua does need Deontay Wilder in the ring with him to once and for all prove who is the best heavyweight, the undefeated heavyweight in the world. So that's why he probably is playing a little hardball right now, not coming back. But I think we'll hear something this week. I'm pretty sure. Well,
as far as opportunities and other fights that would solidify who's ranked. First of all, AJ is ranked as the best fighter in the heavyweight division in the world. It's a matter of opinion who feels that Deontay Wilder could beat Anthony Joshua or not. That's all subjective opinion. But when you look at the resumes would suggest that Anthony Joshua is the better fighter. So my point is that Deontay Wilder has to prove that he's the better fighter, the one-dimensional, one-trick pony that he is. He has to prove it. And I think dragging his feet, if they don't make this fight happen for the next fight for both of these guys, we're not going to see it this year. We're not. We're gonna be looking at 2019, and that would be a shame for not only the heavyweight division, but for the sport itself.
Well, of course it will be, and we don't know what's going to happen in 2019. We're still not even halfway through with 2018. That's why, with other sporting events and everything else coming on the schedule, we've got to look seriously at what's going to be available for these two combatants to get in the ring this year and settle all differences and make a big purse, make a big splash, and as we would see, one of their undefeated records are going to fall. So I think that it's going to happen. We're just not going to hear about it one day, and then boom, the next day we're going to hear boom, the fight is signed, sealed, delivered. You're going to expect the fight date, and you're going to see the negotiations. I've got to believe that they're talking, and not the media even knowing. But there's some discussion going on between these two camps. There's got to be.
Well, there's not. According to Eddie Hearn, he says that he has not officially received anything. There was a report released today, actually, which is a little later on the other side of the pond. He said he's going to try and reach out to them again when he's in New York this weekend. But it is what it is, and this is it. I mean, time is the enemy, and Deontay Wilder is, once again, in my opinion, is being misled by his team. They should have at least thrown a counteroffer on the table already. The silence is not helping the matters any. Another thing I wanted to point out real quick before I take a break is that the World Boxing Super Series in the cruiserweight division, the final, which featured Murata Gassiev against Usyk, has been postponed. Apparently, Usyk has suffered an injury, and they've postponed the fight. It was scheduled to fight on May 11th, so we don't know where it's going to go. from here, but an injury has caused the cruiserweight final for the World Boxing Super Series between Gassiev and Usyk to be postponed. And, you know, the other thing is, as far as I know, the super middleweight one was postponed as well. I must have dropped through the cracks. But listen, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, I got some Triple G news to talk about. What's going on with that, huh? We'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money. It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt, the innovative technology to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace? Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you!
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us today. And just before we went to break, I said I wanted to talk about an update with Triple G. But first, I got to finish a thought on Anthony Joshua. Tyson Fury has been signed to fight again. He's coming back out of retirement. I believe June 9th is the date. And, he's been trying to get a fight with AJ. He thinks he should just step right into the big money fight, which is we all think is kind of funny. And he's in the media, just like Deontay, talking smack, saying that he'll knock out Joshua. He says, I'm the fittest I've ever been. Timing, my reflexes, everything's better than it's ever been. I kid you not. everything's still here. I'm only 29. I'm in the prime of my life. I'm stronger. I'm faster. I have more muscle mass than ever. I'm confident that looking at all the competition, it's not going to be an easy fight against Joshua, but I guarantee you I will knock him out. I kind of disagree with him, and so does Vladimir Klitschko, because Klitschko said this. Klitschko was interviewed, and he says that he thinks that AJ would defeat Tyson Fury easily. He says hands down he would defeat Tyson Fury. He says he's getting to, meaning AJ, is getting to be a complete fighter. He said technically, size-wise, weight-wise, power-wise, he's a good learner. He says Fury is like a fart in the wind. It's there and then it's gone. In the history of boxing, there's a lot of examples of this kind of guy. They could be successful for a time, but they're not disciplined enough to continue to be successful. And, you know, the choice of words that Klitschko used here, Sal, is why I think that Anthony Joshua is such a special fighter. This is a guy that does seemingly learn something every time out. We may not see it as excitement, especially in his last two performances, but hopefully he's learning and getting better and better. And to get that kind of a compliment from Vladimir Klitschko, who controlled the heavyweight division for nearly a decade, I think it means a lot.
Oh, I do too. And, you know, I think Vlad was right on. I mean, his choice of words was right on, as they say, spot on. And I think great depiction and definitely evident as far as the kind of fighter, the kind of special human being Anthony Joshua is. It's a testament. And I'll tell you what, Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury, the fight to happen, I don't care if it happens within a year, Anthony Joshua will knock out Tyson Fury. Stop. I
think that Tyson Fury is perfect for Anthony Joshua's
perfect.
weakness.
He's
Anthony
perfect.
Joshua's weakness is smaller fighters. I don't like, and I bet you they don't like that fight with Povetkin. Not that Povetkin is such a dangerous guy still, but he does possess punching power, and he's short and compact. And so far, that's been the equalizer for Anthony Joshua. And, that's why I think that they are trying to make the fight with Deontay as quickly as they are. But I do agree that Tyson Fury has some stuff to prove. He needs to fight a decent fight, and then he'll be in the mix. That's a future fight for, either Deontay Wilder or Anthony Joshua. And speaking of that real quick, you know, this is why Deontay Wilder's making a big mistake for dragging his feet. If AJ is forced to fight Povetkin, my question is this. Let's just say Povetkin upsets Anthony Joshua and beats
that's
Anthony.
What I'm saying. Too much on the line.
Just listen. Anthony Joshua gets beat by Povetkin. Now, you got Povetkin with all the belts and Deontay Wilder. Now, Deontay Wilder's going to say the same stuff. Oh, he's afraid of me, this and that, blah, blah, blah. But once again, Deontay Wilder doesn't have the financial backing here, or at least the people that are willing to open up the checkbook. And that fight would end up taking place in Russia. My question is, can Deontay Wilder make as much money fighting Povetkin? Forget about Povetkin beating AJ, and there'll be a rematch clause, so it'll prolong it anyway. But let's say in a dream world for Povetkin, he beats AJ twice. Can he make the same money fighting Povetkin as he can with Anthony Joshua? Do you think?
No way.
No way. It's not even close, right?
No way. That's why, Bill, it's going to have to happen. We are going to see Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua.
Yeah, but when?
We're trying to fill in a lot of holes, but it's going to happen this year. It's got to happen. It's going to be announced this week.
But listen, the team that Wilder has around him is using the Marination process as their backdrop. That's the only explanation. They're waiting and waiting, hoping that AJ may not win. Listen, Deontay, they're trying to get better. I don't know. But listen, I wanted to get this in before you go. We are going to take a break in a little bit, and we'll have Larry Hazzard join us. Then Dax Caan, who's been out for a little bit, he's going to come in. We're not doing our blast from the past, and then we'll have Sal back on later because I got a great email for Sal, which we'll be reading a little bit later. But Triple G is very adamant about fighting on May 5th.
I don't know why.
Now, me neither, because
I thought maybe why.
Well, there's some other developments. Okay. One of the reasons I thought was that he's been training, and this is a guy that's used to fighting 2 or 3 times a year, and waiting around for Canelo. He's not doing anything but age. They finally offered O'Sullivan the fight. We talked about this earlier in the week. He turned it down, and now there was Sergey Deverenchenko was in the mix, but they didn't think that they could sell it. HBO wasn't happy about it. And then all of a sudden, they're talking with Vanis Martirosyan, who's promoted by Don King. And he and Triple G's promoter are very sure that this fight could be signed, sealed, and delivered. HBO said that they're willing to take it. Here's the problem. The IBF, same issue that's going on with Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder, the IBF, which Triple G has one of their belts, says no, we're not going to approve the Martirosyan fight. And if you don't fight Deverenchenko, then we're going to strip you of the IBF belt. So once again, you have a fighter that's trying to get all the belts, and now is going to be in a tough position with choosing who he's going to fight. Now, the IBF would not strip him if he signed a deal with Billy Joe Saunders. They were not going to strip him if he fought Canelo, but if he takes on Martirosyan, who they don't approve, rather than Deverenchenko, then they're going to strip him. What's your thoughts?
I can't believe that Spike O'Sullivan's not going to take the fight. I mean, how often do you get offered a world championship fight against a stellar fighter that's got 3/4 of the belts? For the life of me, I can't understand why he's not taking that fight. That's the fight that Spike O'Sullivan should take, win, lose, or draw. It'll be a great opportunity for him to be showcased and all eyes on him. So that is going to blow my mind. I don't realize or understand what their camp is thinking of. As far as this, like I said, the May 5th is coming up. To not even have an opponent with the fight maybe 2.5, 3 weeks away is not feeling too is not good. It's not good for the sport. It's not good for this fight date. And I was hoping they would have had an opponent that they could build some of the anticipation, some kind of light and intrigue that people will definitely want to see. It's not happening right now, and I don't know. Maybe they should just cancel the date and look for Billy Joe Saunders in June or something else.
That makes the most sense in my opinion.
It does.
It's the most value. That's the fight. I would forget about Canelo. And speaking of Canelo, it was announced. By the way, today is the day that the Nevada State Athletic Commission makes a decision on Canelo Alvarez, what kind of suspension that they're going to lay down, etc. And by the way, none of the other sanctioning bodies have taken any recourse against Canelo yet. They're all waiting for the Nevada State Athletic Commission. But here's the double standard that we face in the sport of boxing. Canelo's a big name, generates a lot of money, and everybody's kissing his ass. I mean, that's the bottom line. They're all waiting. Nobody wants to make a move. Well, check this out. The WBC suspended Carlos Cudras. First of all, the sanctioning bodies technically don't have the right to suspend any fighter. That's an athletic commission deal. That's their territory. But nonetheless, the WBC suspended Carlos Cudras from fighting for the WBC belts or whatever. The reason is because he failed a drug test. Did he fail a performance-enhancing drug test? No. Did he fail before his fight or after his fight? Did he fail a test? No. What he failed was substance, recreational drug use. Now, recreational drug, obviously, most of the time they're talking about marijuana, which is legal now in many states here in the U.S. meaning that a fighter who lives in one of those states can go light up and not get arrested or anything. These rules have to be changed. The truth of the matter is why would the WBC act so quickly to suspend Carlos Cuadras? And here, that Canelo has been proven to have tested positive, and nobody's doing anything about it. It's called the double standard. It makes me sick, Sal.
Well, and that's unfortunate. It's part of the politics of the world, and definitely in the world of boxing. And it's evident, and it's happened before. It's going to happen in the future, Billy.
Well, it's a shame. Sal, we're going to take a short break. We're going to kick you to the curb for a little bit. We'll get you back at the after Dax's segment, so be ready. I got a great email for him, and the rest of you, make sure you don't go anywhere.
Billy C will be right back.
Relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt, the innovative technology to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
This is important news for women using birth control medication.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com, and tell them Billy C sent ya.
The one, the only, Don King.
Makes me feel good, Billy, to have you, the #1 show in the country, talking boxing with Billy. So I invite each and every American that's listening to this great show to tune in, because we want you to be there with Billy and me.
Now back to Talking Boxing with Billy C., the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C., damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
The undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talking Boxing with Billy C. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And speaking about being with us, joining us right now, Boxing Hall of Famer and New Jersey Boxing Commissioner, my man Larry Hazzard. Good morning, Larry.
Hey, what's up?
Not too much, my man. Not too much. A lot of stuff to talk to you about. Right up your alley, too. First and foremost, one of my main topics today is, of course, what's on everybody's mind and lips is the potential showdown between Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. We talked last week about the offer that was made initially through the media. Team Wilder has said they're insulted, even though it's $10 million more than the guy's ever made before. It's not that unexpected to go back and forth and try to meet someplace in the middle. But as of at least airtime this morning, no one from Team Wilder has responded to the official offer made by Anthony Joshua's team. And the clock's ticking, Larry, because the WBA threw a wrench in the mix by putting the 30-day negotiation period, that clock is ticking. So realistically, in my opinion, Deontay Wilder has to either accept the fight, have a counter offer made that's signed, sealed, and delivered by like this time next week, because Team Joshua would need a couple of weeks to negotiate with Povetkin. What's your thoughts on this dragging of the feet tactic by Team Deontay Wilder?
Well, as they say, he's going to have to crap or get off the pot, right?
Right.
But it's a little disappointing, because it's one thing to negotiate, but it's also another thing to just be totally, I guess I might say, unreasonable, if there is such a thing in our sport. But I do think that they're making in my opinion, they're making a mistake. Now, if this is not a bluff, if it's not a bluff, then I also am very opinionated. I think that Wilder, on this issue, I think that Wilder might want to consider some new management if he could, or advisors or whatever, because I would think that he's getting poor advice if he turns down that offer. We talked about that. Last week. You know, I thought that the offer that was put on the table was a great offer, is a great offer. Much more money than Wilder has ever made. And also when you look at the potential earnings, I think it's a fair offer, and I think it's a very good offer. So I don't know exactly what type of game they're playing, or you call it a Mexican standoff if you want. It's not really that, because Wilder's team is actually holding all the cards. Although I do feel that not Wilder, I mean Joshua.
I was just gonna ask you about that, because Sal just said that. Sal earlier on the show said that he felt that Wilder was holding the cards, and I disagree. Anthony Joshua was holding the cards, because Anthony Joshua has a line of mandatories that he would have to fight. Right. And some of them are like Povetkin. I want to see AJ fight Wilder, but Povetkin's not a bad fight. It's actually a dangerous fight for AJ, because he can't seem to fight shorter guys.
True. What I actually meant to say, is that you would think that Wilder was holding all the cards, but Joshua, in my opinion, is holding the cards.
Right. Okay.
That's what I meant to say. They are certainly acting like they hold all the cards. For what reason, I wish they would tell me, but I think that they're making a very serious mistake. And if they're serious about this, if they really, really have drawn a line in the sand on this issue, I think that they're doing Wilder a great disservice. And he should really begin to think about, who's going to advise him going forward. That's just my opinion.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. And the reason is, listen, we all know, and you said it last week, we all know that Wilder's supposed to come back with a counter offer, and then, they'll meet someplace in the middle, whatever, okay? But they got to do it quickly. They know that the WBA is putting extra pressure on Team AJ, and that AJ, it's important. If we were talking about Floyd Mayweather, Floyd would say, forget it, keep your belt, I don't need your belt. Anthony Joshua is in that position where he feels that the belts mean something to him, so he will fight Povetkin. So Wilder, I agree, I've said this all along, it does not seem that he has surrounded himself with people that are making the correct decisions for Deontay. They may be making decisions for themselves. I'll hold out, you'll make more money, you'll make more money. Yeah, but how many fights in the meantime? If Deontay Wilder doesn't fight AJ now, let's say it doesn't happen, AJ's going to go fight Povetkin. Then after that, he's going to have the IBF mandatory. Okay, so you're looking at 2 fights. Now we're in sometime in 2019. Now, how many times, and then oh, by the way, the WBC mandatory will come up for Deontay somewhere after, in between that. It's not due now. So Deontay Wilder, let's say he fights a stay busy fight, which he does all the time, and then he gets forced to fight a mandatory. How many fights is Deontay going to have to fight to even come close to making what they initially offered? Forget about what the counteroffer and what he's going to agree to. He'll probably end up making $20 million. But the truth of the matter is how many fights does Deontay have to fight at the rate he's been going, considering his last fight was his biggest payday, to even equal $12.5 million? It does not make financial sense what they're doing here, Larry.
It doesn't make financial sense, and it kind of makes you. It kind of makes you wonder, isn't this, at least some of this, about the money? You're putting, with what you're putting on the line, you're putting your life on the line. I mean, boxing is a very dangerous sport, especially, the heavyweight division. So isn't this about the money? And it really makes you wonder. Again, you made a good point. Who are they representing? And I got plenty of respect for the people around Wilder. They've made fighters in the past a lot of money, but I'm just a little baffled by the decisions that are being made with Wilder as it relates to this Joshua situation. This is about making that money. Joshua, in the meantime, is becoming and going to become super rich, fighting in Europe to 80, 90, and he'll probably reach that 100,000 mark if he hasn't already. I don't keep up with those fan numbers that great, but I do know that he is always fighting in excess of 60, 70,000 people in the arenas. So he's going to make a gobs of money even without Wilder, but you can't say the same about Wilder. And then, of course, there's always that situation lingering out there, especially for a guy like Wilder. There's a chance that you can lose. I mean, AJ can lose also, but you still got that factor out there. That's a hell of a gamble. And the name of the game is to make as much money as you can, as quickly as you can, while at the same time, hopefully, you will fight the best fighters out there so that it will enhance your profile and your career, so that you will, in time, be recognized as a legitimate heavyweight champion, and hopefully go down in history as one of the best. So, you got a lot that you're dealing with. But here's a terrific opportunity, in my opinion, for Wilder to make a lot of money in a 2 or 3 fight deal. And he's done. If he wants to retire, he can, or, do whatever. But I just feel that he's really, really being advised incorrectly.
I agree 100%. It makes no sense, and I just don't get it. And then you add in the fact that AJ has all these problems fighting smaller guys. Next thing you know, he's got to fight Povetkin. Povetkin could beat him, and then that there's a rematch clause. So he's got 2 fights. So now Deontay's pushed back even further. And then my question is this: can Deontay Wilder? Let's just say it happens. Let's say Povetkin upsets the apple cart and beats AJ, not once but twice. I mean, I don't think it's possible, but let's just say it happens. So now you're looking at sometime 2019, and now the 2 guys in the division is Povetkin and Deontay Wilder. My question is this: can Deontay Wilder, even though Povetkin beat Anthony Joshua, can Deontay Wilder make as much money fighting Povetkin as he could Deontay Wilder?
I doubt that very much.
No way. And the other problem is that Deontay doesn't have the financial backing. He's got all these hands in his pocket, but nobody's even offering to bring the fight here or offering any other kind of money. Just to consider that the guy, a heavyweight champion in the United States, undefeated, 40 wins, 39 coming by knockout, and the most money he's ever made was $2.5 million against Luis Ortiz. Listen, you don't need a calculator to figure out that they're screwing this kid. It's a shame. It's a shame. But okay, I got a couple other things. Number one, today is the day. that Canelo has to go before the Nevada State Athletic Commission, and they are going to hand down the sentence for testing positive for performance-enhancing drugs. And up to this point, all the sanctioning bodies that had been involved have not done anything to Canelo. Now, he's already tested positive, but he hasn't done anything. It was announced yesterday afternoon that the WBC suspended Carlos Cudras because he failed a drug test. Now, it was not for performance-enhancing drugs. It wasn't before a fight. It wasn't after a fight. It was for a recreational drug. Didn't say, but I'm assuming it's marijuana. And they're suspending him, right? So my question to you is this. Well, first of all, it's kind of a tricky question at first because, marijuana obviously is becoming legal. Coast to coast, it's legal in a lot of states right now. So, I think sports is going to have to make some kind of a consolation for that particular substance that's tested, but that's neither here nor there. But my question to you really is this. Since when do sanctioning bodies suspend anybody? Isn't that an athletic commission deal? I mean, they might suspend him from fighting for one of their titles, and they're making it sound like they got all this juice, but doesn't that fall on the commission's shoulders?
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. The sanctioning organization have no regulatory authority whatsoever. Even when they come into a particular jurisdiction, they really have no authority as it relates to the regulation of the event. All they do is bring in their belt. We know what they do. I don't have to summarize that for you. They've been around long enough. So they suspend him. They have the right to suspend him from fighting for their belt, but not from fighting, period. So it's like a tricky situation that they have. But to answer your question directly, no, they don't have authority to suspend per se. Only their belt.
Right.
Okay. They can prevent him from fighting for their belt.
But you see how the wording confuses the fan that really doesn't know the intricacies of the sport.
Yeah, the fans. See, I don't know if the fans are ever going to really understand the workings of the sanctioning organizations and how they interact with the governing or the legitimate regulatory bodies. I don't know if the fans clearly will ever understand that. But like you said, the way it's worded, sanctioning organizations oftentimes try to project themselves to being the almighty, which they're not. They're absolutely not.
Well, they always seem to act like they are the sport, which they all act that way. They all do. That's the problem, Larry. They've created a division in the sport when the sport desperately needs unity. But let's move on to the next thing. We're going to get back to the WBC in a second. But the Triple G is adamant about fighting on May 5th. And he's running out of time, and he's running out of opponents. It seemed like he was going to be all set to fight Vanes Martirosyan. But now the IBF has stepped up and said, listen, if you're not going to fight our mandatory, we're going to strip you. And their mandatory is Sergey Deverenchenko. I think that Triple G is making a mistake of wanting to fight May 5th. I think that he should just forget about May 5th and set up the fight with Billy Joe Saunders sometime in June. Forget Canelo, forget all of this, and he gets to keep all the belts, and then he could do what he wants afterwards. What's your thoughts?
Oh, that's a good move. That's a good move. You know, and then I think somewhere down the pike, if that Canelo situation seems inviting, he can always go back to that. I think over time though, I think that the Canelo Triple G matchup is going to lose a little steam. I don't know how much, but I think the sooner they could get in the ring together, the better in terms of fan interest, etc. But I think that Billy Joe Saunders versus Triple G would be a very entertaining and inviting matchup. And I agree with you 100%. I think that he should forget about all of that other stuff, and even the May 5th. Maybe sometimes late July or September or something. Billy Joe Saunders, I think that would be a good move for him. It's a good fight. I think it would be competitive, and I think he could still maintain his competitive edge fighting a guy like Saunders. And if Canelo becomes available in the near future, he can always go back there. But I think it's time. He's going to be winding down soon anyway.
Exactly.
Triple G.
That's.
So I think that would be a good move for him.
Exactly. That's the point. He could go over and fight Saunders, pick up the last belt that he wants, which is he'll have them all, and make close to what he was going to make in fighting Canelo, and then do what he wants, walk away. Forget Canelo. Canelo is holding Triple G. This is what bothers me, and
holding him hostage.
He's holding him a hostage when he's the guy. He's the guy who made and now Triple G is paying the consequences. It's not fair, and the same. It's special treatment. It's the same thing that the WBC is doing by not suspending him or making a statement like he's not allowed to fight for our titles. Same thing. WBA supported it. Said they even made the outrageous statement saying that they thought that the performance-enhancing drug situation would have added drama to the fight. They're supporting this guy so much, and then Carlos Cudras gets popped for smoking a joint or whatever, and he's can't fight for a WBC title immediately. It doesn't even put it out in the ashtray yet, and he's done. So anyway, go ahead.
Canelo has become our new Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. With the WBC, it appears.
Yeah, but this is the same guy. Canelo was. Remember, he got mad when they made Triple G a mandatory. Remember, they gave Triple G the interim belt, and Canelo didn't want to fight him at that point or whatever, and they stripped Canelo of the belt, and then Triple G became the WBC champ. Canelo vowed never to fight for a WBC belt again until they had the fight, until they had the first fight. It is. You're right about that. And speaking of the WBC, they're having this tournament, and Vander Holyfield's promotional boxing company, which is just basically using his name, but he's been out there. They listed their tournament scoring criteria. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't.
Okay. They have their own scoring criteria for this tournament, which is beginning next Friday, April 27th, in Louisville, Kentucky. Let me just read them to you. Clean, effective punching, control, which is, in parentheses, they have ring generalship, effective aggression, defense. Additional judges are added to minimize the margin of error by the Kentucky Boxing Commission. Open scoring for every round by Kentucky. Assignment of neutral officials. Use of replay. The fans are going to determine who fights who. And all the fighters have to be in the WBC's clean boxing program. This is all the WBC taking credit for coming up with all of this ideas. What's your thoughts?
Well, I just had a conversation the other day with some of my colleagues, associates, and because I've been getting all kinds of people coming in here with different types, different versions of combative sports, and I've called this is wacko, what I call wacko season. Okay, for some reason, our sport is being invaded recently with all of these wacko ideas. And I've always said, in the sport of boxing, like in no other sport, there's always a quest by certain people to break things so they can get credit for fixing it. Okay, and here we go again with these rules, with the addition of the fans deciding now who fights who, and all of this stuff that this gibberish crap that you just, expounded about for this tournament. I think it's ridiculous, okay, that they're going outside of the regular boxing rules, other than to, at some point, look at elements like instant replay, where that makes sense, and that's right in line with other professional sports, okay? I don't even have a problem at some point with looking at the use of extra judges here and there for whatever. But to just come right in now and implement all of these things in a tournament, I think it's just crazy. It's stupid. And I'm totally against. And this open scoring, they've been trying to push that for the last 5-10 years, okay? And I don't see where it has improved scoring anywhere. Okay, so I don't know what they're looking for, other than to break things and try to take credit now for fixing something. So that's my opinion of that.
I agree with you about the open scoring. I think that it's bad. And the reason why I think it's bad is because it's going to be, and maybe not, if the fighter is looking up at the score and watching the score, that's a problem. It's like the football receiver who's watching himself on the jumbotron, running for the touchdown. But what I could see happening is that the cornermen, chief second or whatever, okay, you won that last round, and getting too cutesy, getting too sweet, and I think that the scoring should be left the way it is now in terms of let's hear it at the end, because a fighter might decide he's winning, he could take his foot off the gas pedal. Another fighter, but on the other side, the guy who's losing might see that he's losing and has to step it up. I don't like it, but check this out. As far as the scoring, they want to mention this. They said for scoring system, it is acceptable to score a 10-8 round when there are no knockdowns if the boxer who wins the round displays overwhelming dominance over their opponent. For the purposes of this guideline, the term overwhelming dominance can be defined as one boxer exhibiting absolute control over the entire round, wins the round in decisive manner, landing clean, effective punches as the opponent offers minimal competition. A 10-8 round should be scored, and it should also be scored if a boxer is visibly hurt or staggered during the round. Why didn't you come up with that idea, Larry?
I've already. what are they, reinventing the wheel?
We've talked about that every week for the last 2 months, and we talk about fights that have taken place that should have been scored similar to that. We talked last week about a round that was a clear example of how, when a point deduction, this was a point deduction, how all three of the judges, totally went the other way. It's comical, really, it is. But
it gives credence to what I just finished saying. Okay, they broke it. Now they fix it. Now the WBC now wants credit for that. Okay, look what we did. You see what I'm saying? We've been talking about that for how long now? Just last week we talked about it, like you said. Scoring. Oh my God!
I know. It's kind of comical, but anyway, Larry. Before we let you go, there's a couple of fights this weekend. One of them is the return of Adrian Broner. He's fighting Jesse Vargas. I believe that fight's in Brooklyn.
It's in the box.
Yeah,
it's at the box.
Yeah. Adrian Broner's been in so much trouble over the last several months. Is this a good chance for him to right the ship, or what do you think about that?
Well, as you know, I don't really think that much of Adrian Broner as a fighter. As a matter of fact, just this morning, a very good friend of mine and we were talking about Adrian Broner We were talking about Floyd getting the car all shot up and all of that stuff, okay? But my feelings about Adrian Broner, okay, I haven't seen a change in Broner since they robbed Paulie Malignaggi in Brooklyn a few years ago. I never saw Adrian Broner as being anything more than a step above a good amateur. That's all. Glitz and glitter, trying to be the second coming of Floyd Mayweather, which Broner nor any of the other young fighters out there can be. There's only one Floyd, okay, whether you like him or not, all right? And as far as Broner is concerned, if he doesn't win this fight, okay, I would think that it's over for him. And I also don't think that he's going to win this fight, okay? The jury has already given its verdict on Broner as far as I'm concerned. And I was totally convinced when Sean Porter wiped him out. When he fought Paulie Malignaggi, I was right there in Brooklyn when Paulie, in my opinion, got robbed. Okay? I never thought that much of Broner as a fighter. I think that deep down inside, though, I think he's a nice young man that's just trying to act out and be someone who he's really not. And I think that somebody needs to take him aside, give him a good talking to, and I think he needs to listen. Okay? And I'm willing to see what he would do if he came back again and really got serious and got him a good trainer, okay, and try to learn, because he's still young enough, okay, and I think that he still has some good basic skills, but he really has never reached that point of being what you call a great fighter. And he's been lucky enough to have, 3 or 4 titles? I don't even remember who he fought or when he fought them, except the fights that convinced me more and more that he was nothing more than an outstanding, what you would call a step above an open-class amateur fighter. That's my opinion of Broner.
Well, we'll be talking about his fight next week, my man. So have a good weekend. Enjoy the fights, and I look forward to next week.
Okay. You too, Billy.
All right, my man. Have a good one. That's Larry Hazzard giving us his thoughts. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, Dax Caan is scheduled to join us. Don't go nowheres.
Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
Snacking has never been this exciting. At Graze.com, we combine wholesome ingredients with the flavors we all love to create over 100 exciting snacks. Like these. We'd love to send you a Graze sampler box for free. Just go to Graze.com, enter the code ENJOY36, and we'll mail your free box to your home or office. Join thousands of Grazers already in love with our exciting snacks. So come to Graze.com for your first box free. Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt, the innovative technology to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to traditional pools, making it easy and inexpensive to swim at home. Exercise year-round against a smooth current set to your desired pace and temperature. With our new underwater treadmill, you can walk or run without stressing your joints. Endless pools are simple to install and even simpler to maintain. The water stays crystal clear with almost no chlorine. Call for your free idea kit and experience the freedom of swimming at home.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. He may not have an Excellence in Broadcasting award, but the night's still young.
And he's got martinis.
So you never know what may be by morning. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C.
Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us today. Excuse me, and joining us right now after a well, I don't want to call it a vacation because it certainly wasn't, is my man, Dax Caan. What's up?
It was a fabulous vacation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the kind of vacation I don't want to go on, that's for sure. But a lot of stuff to chat about, my man. First and foremost, what's your thoughts on this dragging of the feet, which at least appears to be the dragging of the feet with Team Wilder, with the offer that they called insulting by Team Joshua? We all knew that they weren't going to accept the first offer. I'm sure Team Joshua didn't. But time is ticking away. I mean, you got the WBA looming for the mandatory against Povetkin. What's your thoughts on what's going on?
You know, it's both sides are to blame on this. Let's not blame just Deontay Wilder's side. We have to blame both sides. I think there's a lot of bull being sent out there by both teams in terms of negotiation ploys. I offered this, I was not offered that. How about giving me this? You know, I think more of it, as was stated earlier on, has to do with the promoters and the teams around them. You know, both sides are starting to bore me, to be honest. Like Joshua or not, the fact is he just began his trek as a world champion. He only has 21 fights, maybe 3-4 title defenses. You know, he's been marketed great. You know, he just happens to benefit from the fact that he's over in the UK where they appreciate their fighters a lot more than the United States fans appreciate their fighters. You know, he went life and death with Klitschko, more or less. You know, it was an edge of your seat, you know, thriller type fight, which really, you know, boosted his popularity. But then again, Deontay Wilder also did so with Luis Ortiz. In the fight where prior to that, you know, maybe a lot of people don't want to admit it, but most people picked Ortiz to beat Deontay Wilder. In my opinion, if this fight really wants to get made, 60-40 in favor of Anthony Joshua when it comes to the purse bid, and then, of course, give Anthony Joshua, because he is the bigger name, and as much as we hate to say it, you know, he has the belts, you know, they do matter. So you know what, you give him his share of all the UK pay-per-view money, and let it be that, and let's fight. You know, fact of the matter is, what do you want to do? Yeah, you know, why I say the blame has to be on both sides. Anthony Joshua, what type of champion do you want to be? Are you a guy who just wants to make your money, get out of the sport quickly, or are you a guy who really wants a legacy along with this? Because all these guys before you, whether or not it was Klitschko, whether or not it was Lewis, whether or not it was Holyfield, do you want to stand with them, or do you just want to fit into this modern mold of I want to make as much money as I can and I want to go? Because what's going to happen here, and I see the same thing happening with Deontay Wilder, of course, is slowly somebody's going to creep up, and as they creep up, maybe you mentioned before, let's say, even though he's been around a long time, he's a veteran, he fights up Povetkin upsets him. Or, you know what, maybe somebody decides, you know, Triple D, Daniel Dubois, is a very marketable guy, and Daniel Dubois just keeps getting better, and somehow he ends up there with Anthony Joshua. And be honest with you, from what I see from Daniel Dubois and what I see of Anthony Joshua, even if that fight happened tomorrow, that's a pick'em fight. So, you know, Anthony Joshua right now, you got to make yourself a decision.
You know, a lot of people talk about the breakdown, the offers, blah, blah, blah. You sometimes you wonder. We do know that this particular fight is going to generate a lot of money. What's wrong with coming to the table with something like a 45-35 split, 45 going to AJ, 35 to Deontay, and then a 20% bonus for the winner? That puts the guy who wins in a position to make more than the guy who lost. And, although it's not, 40-40 and then, 20% to the winner, you do have to give a little more to AJ because of the popularity, because that he's got the money backing him. His promotional team is putting on the fight. It will be in the UK for the first one, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, what's wrong with that? 45-35 split, 45 to AJ, 20% bonus to the winner. What's your thoughts?
Why not? Why not throw a wrench into that? Sure, why not? We don't see that often in boxing, but something, the UFC does that quite a bit. You get these bonuses for fights of the night. Anthony Joshua, as I've stated on here several times, his head is getting a little too big for himself, and this is why I see an upset happening here. Just recently, he was talking about his regrets where he should have knocked out Joseph Parker, who more or less laughed at that, and he came out with a comment on social media and in a couple articles. Yeah, he wished, but he just couldn't. And and that's a fact. Joseph Parker, he didn't fight a great fight. He clearly lost. In most people's opinion. But Anthony Joshua, he couldn't knock Joseph Parker out because Joseph Parker, fought a smart fight. Their resumes really aren't that different, and despite how critics on either side wants to sit there and judge. Deontay Wilder, he has Arthur Spilka, who at the time when he fought him was, a very viable name. Malik Scott, despite on what people think of the ending, how that punch was, if he took a dive, all those other rumors, Malik Scott, when they fought, a very viable name. He has veterans like Sergey Lyahovich, Chris Arreola, Johan Duhaupas, who was very little known. He showed that, he's a quality fighter. He had some quality wins after that. Anthony Joshua, sure, Vladimir Klitschko, and Vladimir Klitschko, Carlos Takam, but other than that, they share Eric Molina. Sure, he has Charles Martin, he has Dominic Breazeale, but Charles Martin really... What was Charles Martin? Charles Martin won the title off a guy who really wasn't that highly thought of, and it was not an injury. It wasn't really, that anything Charles Martin did special. Charles Martin was blown out of there, and Charles Martin's done nothing since. So, Kevin Johnson, the go-to guy, rumor has it that's going to be Tyson Fury's return opponent, and Carlos Takam, which he looked really horrible, and then you have Dillian White, who runs hot and cold. Dillian White, despite the Lucas Brown destruction, he went toe-to-toe, life and death with a shop-worn Derek Chisora. So this resume really isn't that different. What it really comes down to right now is just the popularity. And, so one of these guys got to make their decision on, who is going to take the chance, who's going to take the short money just to make this fight happen. Because as I stated, you stated yourself, it's getting old, it's getting drawn out, it's getting stale. And one of these guys are going to get upset. And, and then all of a sudden, they're both out of that big payday.
The sad thing is that Povetkin is looming around because of the WBA and their proficiency in screwing up the sport. And that's not a good fight for AJ. AJ's big weakness that I see right now is he has a hard time fighting shorter fighters. If you go and you look at the times that he seemingly struggled for a bit in the fight, it was always against the shorter guys. The guys that are his size or close to his size, he takes care of pretty easily. So that Povetkin fight, if I'm working with Team AJ, that's kind of a fight I'm not into right now. I even though that Deontay Wilder is a better fighter than Povetkin, in my opinion, right now, I think that the styles match up better for AJ to fight Deontay than Povetkin. But unfortunately, that 30-day negotiation period, we're in it. We're already in it. So if they don't close a deal with Wilder by this time next week, they got to shift gears and start negotiating with Povetkin, because that lunatic in Russia, his promoter, will win. He'll do a purse bid and force that fight to take place in Russia.
And you know what? And again, that's just going to have to, prove the metal on these guys. Or what are you going to do? Larry Hazzard, of course, made a very valid point. This is prize fighting. These guys, they risk their lives. Of course, it is about the money. But on the other hand, too, are you fighting just for the money, or are you fighting for, a little bit of legacy as well? That remains to be seen with both guys. But so we'll see what happens. I'm getting bored of it because it's the same thing over and over again. It's not like anything is changing. It's the same thing over and over again by both teams. It's almost like you're living on that block full of old ladies, and as you're walking by, every single one of them is telling you about the same thing that happened 2 days ago while you were out of town.
What's wrong with that? Stop telling people about your neighborhood, Dax. Come on, man. Come on.
I'm talking about the time I came to visit you.
Yeah.
Okay.
An interesting thing that happened yesterday, which I wanted to get your thoughts on. Mikey Garcia. A lot of us thought that Mikey Garcia was going to campaign at 140, and he notified the sanctioning body and gave up his 140-pound belt and is going to campaign at lightweight. Looks like Robert Easter Jr. is the fight. Do you think that this is a signal that he's looking at a showdown with Lomachenko? Because by staying in the 135-pound weight class, that seems to make a showdown with Lomachenko more realistic than if he moved up to the junior, that if he stayed in the junior welterweight division. What's your thoughts on that move?
As I said on here, to you, and we've spoke about this, off the air, irregardless of the fact that Mikey Garcia, in my opinion, if he should stay in that 140-pound division, he's obviously the most talented, physically most capable, but he lacks that punching power in that division. And there's a lot of strong guys in that division, as we've seen when all these new champions were crowned. So that would be very hard for Mikey Garcia. And there's bigger names at 135 pounds. Whether or not he fights Lomachenko, whether or not he fights Jorge Linares, regardless of who wins or loses, they're both very viable opponents, and both those guys are more accomplished opponents than anybody in that 140-pound division is right now. So I think that's a smart idea. Clue should have been, why wasn't Mikey Garcia dropping that 135-pound title? I think the writing was kind of on the wall there, no?
Well, the funny thing is that according to multiple sources, he actually reached out to the WBC and said, hey, by the way, do I still have the belt, before he made the announcement. And they said, yeah, we didn't make a move yet until you made the move. So it was almost like, they gave it a lot of thought. And personally, I think it was the right move. But another question for you, Triple G, adamant about fighting on the card, or at least on the date of May 5th. That seems to be blown up in his face. Now the IBF is pulling the same thing that the WBA is with Joshua. They said if you don't fight Devenchenko, then we're not going to approve the Martirosyan fight, and then therefore we're going to strip you. But they would wait for Saunders. They would wait for well, they're not going to wait all the way for Canelo. But what's your thoughts on that?
It's the whole thing is unfair to Triple G, honestly. The guy, he didn't do nothing wrong.
I know.
And he's being unfairly punished. Tyson Fury, perfect example. We spoke about him earlier. The IBF strips him because he wanted to give Vladimir Klitschko a rematch, and the IBF strips him. How unfair was that? But that's sanctioned body politics. Triple G wanting to fight on May 5th, I'm sure he could probably postpone it. You mentioned earlier in the show, maybe it's because he was so adamant on that date because of the fact that he put in his work, his training camp. Those camps cost money. A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of fans, it costs money to run a training camp. They're not cheap, especially when you're at that type of level. But on the other hand, too, a lot of that is a principle. Why should I have to give up my date, and why should me as the unified title holder, why should I have to adjust my schedule because somebody else didn't follow the rules and didn't play the game the way they were supposed to play? But right now, Triple G's just in that type of situation, and Baines Martirosyan really not a viable opponent. Spike O'Sullivan, I was a little bit surprised that Spike O'Sullivan didn't take that fight, considering he was really adamant and he was really talking a lot about, I'm going to take this fight. He was making videos, going out on social media. He was campaigning. Billy Joe Saunders, that's a fight, of course, we'd all like to see. But again, because Billy Joe Saunders and his June date, where they already had the venue over there reserved for the Martin Murray fight, he wouldn't be ready in that amount of time. So it's an unfair situation for Triple G. And unfortunately, the public somehow, some way, is going to sit there and they are going to reverse this, and they're going to throw it back into Triple G's face. But I'll tell you, truth of the matter is, Bill, I'd like to talk about him for just, a little minute right here. Ryota Murata, I'm telling you right now, this guy is the boogeyman.
I wanted to talk to you about that, so hang tight about that fight because, he didn't impress me, but let's finish up with the Triple G for a second because you hit on something that I've been saying. Triple G didn't do anything wrong. Canelo did. And then all of a sudden, Triple G is being touted as the bad guy. He's paying consequences for Canelo's positive performance-enhancing drug test. And special treatment aggravates the hell out of me in sports, specifically boxing. And I mentioned earlier in the show, and I think you heard, what the WBC did. Nobody has made a move with Canelo yet, even though that he has, it's been announced and proven that he tested positive, and the Nevada State Athletic Commission today will issue his sentence, so to speak. But none of the sanctioning bodies made any kind of a move towards him. The WBA went as far as saying they thought it would have added drama to the fight. The WBC says, we love him, we're staying behind him, blah, blah, blah. And yet, yesterday, the WBC suspends Carlos Cudras for what I'm assuming, I don't know for sure, recreational drug use, which most likely is marijuana. They're suspending him from fighting for any WBC titles. And nobody's made any kind of a decision in terms of the actual powers that be, a commission. Special treatment is the worst thing that can happen in sports. What's your thoughts on Canelo seemingly to be getting special treatment from everybody and Triple G not so much?
Money talks, period. You're the big draw, the money talks. The example that I always bring up is, and it wasn't even just in boxing, just in public life, unfair to the average Joe, was Floyd Mayweather being given that little extra amount of time so he can go out there and he can make $20, $30, $40 million, however much it was, and have his little jail time sentence delayed a little bit. Why? Because he brought in so much money to the city of Las Vegas. When you have the big fights in Vegas, whether or not it's a Mayweather fight or a heavyweight title fight, no matter what it is, you have people coming in from all over the place, and those people spend money in casinos. The more the casinos make, the more the city makes. The more the city makes, the more the state makes. And that's unfair. So it's definitely unfair in the case of Canelo. It's not fair at all. But unfortunately, that's just the way it is, and there's nothing we can do about it. Maybe one day somebody will step up and say, something, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the 0-1 guy. I don't care if you're the 44-0 or the 15-0 guy. Fact is, these are the rules. It's going to go one way down the line straight, and that's it. But unfortunately, you know what? We're in a money business. We're in a prize-fighting business, and that money that's made doesn't just go to the fighter and the promoter and the camp and the sanctioning body team. That money trickles around, so more or less there's a lot of people being fed off that, so a lot of people want to keep eating, and this is why these things happen. If Canelo wasn't such a big draw, of course he wouldn't have this treatment.
Well, first of all, just to agree with you, I agree with you on that. The money is controlling everything, and it's a shame because a lot of the other facts are lost in the mix. But now jumping to, you wanted to talk about Ryota Murata. I watched that fight, and Blando Miura was, first of all, I want to say this, and I never thought I'd say this, Dax, but I miss Teddy Atlas. To have Teddy Atlas on that broadcast, tell me it wasn't like all of a sudden I'm hearing Teddy Atlas. Now, the guy he was with, let's face it, time to give credit what credit's due. Teddy Atlas and Joe Tessitore were a really good match. I think we took them for granted, and they were a good team, and ESPN is missing a boat. The new guy with Teddy, you could tell Teddy's not really gelling with him, but I tell you, I missed... when I was listening to Teddy doing the broadcast, I really realized how much I miss him on ESPN. But as far as the fight itself, Murata looks like he's very one-dimensional, and he just. against a guy that obviously Blendon Mura was a guy that was displaying movement and stuff like that, but he didn't have much anything else. I mean, he was trying to go in and land a lucky knockout punch, which he doesn't have knockout power. I don't know if we can really judge Murata on that fight. Why do you think he's like a sleeping giant in the division?
Who is? I'm trying to remember who the guy that Keith Thurman fought and Errol Spence both fought there. The little known guy, the Leonard Bundu. You know, that's kind of more or less who Blendon Mura reminds me of, you know, his type of style. But, you know, he was, you know, the fight wasn't impressive, no. And, you know, as real quick touching on Teddy, I was happy to see Teddy on there. I had actually set my alarm for the fight and, you know, to get up that early because, you know, 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning. And come
on, you're sleeping that late. I'm already having dinner by 8 o'clock in the morning. Come on, man.
I had 4 surgeries in a week. What about you? I had a morphine drip for 5 days. What were you doing?
All right. I was hanging out with Kudras. I was hanging out with Kudras.
He kept talking about Ryota Murata, talking about a fountain of misinformation. He keeps saying, Ryota Murata is undefeated in Japan. No, that's the only place that Ryota Murata suffered his lone professional loss. But Emmanuel Blendon Mura, you know, a European-level fighter, not a great world-class fighter, but a solid fighter and a genuine middleweight. He does have 2 stoppage losses to Billy Joe Saunders and Michael Soro, but, you know, a hard style to fight, a guy that keeps moving around, you know, so those guys, as we see, it doesn't matter what level you are, those are just hard guys to fight because you chase them around. Keith Thurman against Leonard Bundu, for example, you know, Keith Thurman had a hard time really getting around there and catching up with Leonard Bundu. So, you know, styles make fights. You know, Murata, you know, in that first fight against Hassam Ndam, you know, he was kind of robbed. You know, those scores were so bad in that fight. The WBA was embarrassed, and they actually ordered that rematch. You know, you had it 117-110, and you had it 116-111, and then 115-112, all in favor of Ndam. How those scores could be such a disparity, you know, is preposterous. You know, you look at my article in my column where I wrote about this guy. You know, he doesn't have really a lot of special names on there. You know, Gunnar Jackson, Jesse Nicklo, the Comanche Boy. You know, he's fought in the States a few times. I mean, he looks very basic. You're right. He looked very basic and very easy to beat. I know a few other guys that look very basic and very easy to beat, and they have throughout their whole careers. They've gotten better as time goes on. But, you know, 2 of them, Gennady Golovkin and Canelo Alvarez, very basic and very easy to beat throughout their whole career. They've, you know, pretty much looked at. Both of them, you know, despite Golovkin having, you know, that great footwork to cut off fighters. You know, he's not really fleet-footed, and those type of guys give him problems. Canelo's always had slow feet. His power, while it's decent, it's not great. Canelo's never really knocked out an elite 154-pound fighter, let alone an elite middleweight fighter. You know, this guy here, you know, remember something. Ryota Murata is an Olympic gold medalist. Even if he has those basic fundamentals, and he has them down pat, that's not an opinion, because if you don't have basic fundamentals, you're not winning an Olympic gold medal. I don't care where it is. Those basic fundamentals, if you're steady with them, they can get you far. And this guy is steady. I referenced the Canelo versus Amir Khan and the Triple G versus Kell Brook fights, where, you know, both those guys had problems. And, you know, for the reasons with the speed and that. But, you know, Ryota Murata, he's not a big puncher. He's not fleet-footed. He does cut the ring off pretty good. He has a very solid chin. He comes forward. He's steady. He has a high work rate. He's not a, you know, a huge puncher. But, you know, he's a very respectable puncher. And the fact is, the guy, like I said, he's steady. The fact that, you know, in all his performances, he performs the same way. He's steady. He has a little bit of underrated defense. And most importantly, what he has behind him, Bill, is Taiken Gym. Taiken Gym produces nothing but quality. You know, not going into the history of it, some of the fans out there who, over the last 15 years, remember, Taiken Gym, before they went to Taiken Gym, they were one thing. When they left Taiken Gym, they were a total different. You know, Shinsuke Yamanaka, who just until August, when Louis Neary, you know, also became victim of this tainted Mexican meat, was the longest reigning champion in boxing. We have Roman Gonzalez, former pound-for-pound fighter. You know, Cesar Bazan, Edwin Valero, the Wrecking Machine. You know, the list goes on and on and on. You know, Taiken Gym just produces nothing but quality, and this kid has Taiken Gym behind them. And while the rest of of these guys are out there, they're arguing, they're talking about the dates. Billy Joe Saunders is over there doing this to his opponents. Not that, that's putting them down. They're not great fighters. This kid is going to keep improving under that Tyson banner because Tyson refuses to put out average fighters. And eventually what's going to happen is one of these guys are going to find themselves up against Ryota Murata, whether or not it's sanctioning body politics, whether or not the Top Rank and the rest of his team say, you know what, we got the money, let's get to the table. And, if you're not paying attention and anybody's not watching the progression of Ryota Murata, they're a fool, because this is a guy that's going to come in there. If you're not ready and you're thinking he's one-dimensional and you're thinking he's easy to beat, this is the type of guy that, like I said, he's a boogeyman, and he'll end up walking out of that ring. While I don't care if it's Triple G, Billy Joe Saunders, I don't care if it's Canelo Alvarez, he'll leave him on their back. And why? Just because he's a pressure fighter with a solid chin, and he has those fundamentals, and he has a great team behind him, and that's what makes him the boogeyman.
Dax, great points, and we are going to see him against somebody because he had a successful defense, and Top Rank is going to try to get him. He's got a big following in Japan, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, huge following in Japan.
Yeah. So, Dax, I'm glad to see you back on the mend, and we'll look forward to you Monday, brother.
Absolutely, everybody. A lot of good fights this weekend, so enjoy.
Yeah, Friday, maybe come on again and give us your predictions.
Yes, absolutely. See everybody then.
All right, man. Take care. That's Dax Caan. Like I said, he'll be back to get his we'll be back to get his predictions on Friday. Listen, I'm going to take a short break. When I come back, we're scheduled to have Sal back with us. Yeah. Sal. You remember Sal, right? We'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt, the innovative technology to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
Similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C Show. Glad you could be with us. And back with us now is Sal Rocky Senecola. You back with us?
I'm back with you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
We
got some emails, and we got several of them. So if we don't get to your email today, we will get to it tomorrow. So the first one is from my man Coach. And he says, hey, Billy C., with Chris Algieri back in the gym and rumors of Ruslan Podognikov coming back as well, considering his return. Ruslan Podognikov is considering a return to the ring. Their coach predicted a controversial split decision won by Fight Algieri at this point, would you be interested in seeing an Algieri-Prodognikov rematch? The answer is yes. I would like to see it, and I'll tell you why. The fact is that a lot of people talked about that fight, and truthfully, what would be a better fight for both of these guys to get back in the ring against each other? I mean, I can't think of another fight that I'd want to see. Chris Algieri wasn't an exciting fighter, and Prodognikov was, and both of them have been out of the ring for a little bit. And by having a rematch would definitely do one of two things. If you won the fight, it'll help you continue. If you lose, you're going to go back into retirement. I mean, Sal, what's your thoughts on taking a fight, after being out for a little bit, and taking a fight against an opponent that was a controversial ending the first time as your first fight back? Do you think that these guys need, what we call, which I hate the term, but a tune-up fight first?
No, I don't think they do. I think, having the opportunity to solidify a clear decision as a result, I think is enough incentive and enough firepower to get these guys back in the ring and do a nice dance together. I don't see them having to marinate this or having a preliminary fight or having to work out any rust or anything like this. Let them come back and face each other. That would be great ending, like you suggested. Hey, if he loses, he's retired again. If he wins, hey, maybe he's got another leg to fight.
Right.
Great opportunity. I think it should be done.
Yeah, I think they should go right into that. Another one here is from my man Stewart. He says a couple of notes from this side of the pond. He says, in terms of Wilder's team being happy with a 60-40 split is a rumor. Shelley Finkel has spoken to British newspapers saying that they quoted him saying that they would take a 60-40%. He says that $12.5 million is guessed on Shelley Finkel's point as being only 20% of what the fight is estimated the profit will be. He said, secondly, Billy Joe Saunders fighting Triple G in June. Billy does have a fight signed already with Martin Murray for June, but I could see why that fight would be shelved in favor of a unification fight. I would think Frank Warren would want more time to build a fight of that magnitude. It would be the biggest fight for a very long time. Secondly, Murray is well thought of in the boxing community in this country, and to cancel a fight on him and his last chance at winning a world title at this late stage of a game doesn't seem like a straight thing to do. And Frank Warren is a straight-talking man, so I don't think it's in the character of him or Billy Joe Saunders. What do you think about that?
That's an interesting point. We want the big fights, we want the super fights, we want the title fights, we want. That's our propensity to spend money for tickets for good things. And I think the Billy Joe Saunders fight could be sold easily, and there could be a lot of makeup for whatever the deficit may be if Billy Joe Saunders chooses to fight Triple G versus his scheduled bout. And I think that's just part of the business of boxing. It's not always straight. It's not always clear cut. But opportunities only come around at a special time. And this is a good time for Billy Joe Saunders to maybe have a showdown with Triple G. And I think it'll be one that all eyes will be on. And they'll wait to see where the dust settles after the fight. And then they can pick it up from there.
Another email here. Actually, I got two. One. This last one is going to be a good one for you. But before that, we got one more from my man Johnston. He says, "Hey Billy C, I've been listening to Joe Goosen, who's been drafted by Amir Khan since Virgil Hunter has been in hospital." Yeah, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. He says he has incorporated an element into Khan's game and introduced a change with the headgear that I found fascinating. He says, first, he removed the strapping on the chin of the headgear. His theory is that the strap can hinder a fighter's view and give them a false sense of security when getting hit on the chin during a sparring session. I just wondered what Sal thinks of that theory, and if he liked it or didn't like it about using a headgear using a head guard while sparring. Well, before I read his second point, what do you think of using a head? They all use headgear when sparring, but what do you think about removing the chin strap?
Well, I'm trying to picture how you would remove the chin strap. I mean, and how you would keep it affixed on the head without the chin strap. There's got to be something on there, otherwise you'll be like a rock'em sock'em robot and you'll lose your headgear. So I don't really understand how something will be affixed on top of your head with the movement and everything else of the boxing and the way you get inside and everything else without being completely ripped off without a chin strap. Chin straps are chin straps. They get in the way. They're uncomfortable at times, but they do not hinder a performance or anything else. When you're in a fight and you're in a ring or you're sparring, you got a job to do, and that's what you're doing. And chin strap never came to be an irritation on a level. I'll tell you what, when I started boxing so long ago in the amateurs, we didn't even use headgears in the amateurs way back when. In fact, the first time I really fought with a headgear was, I think, on the national AAU championship level in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, back in '77. And then, of course, when I fought for the Army boxing team, we had headgears. But I was never a fan of fighting with a headgear. But I do know the benefits of sparring with a headgear to protect cuts and also head collisions and things like that, and butts. The
second part of his question is, Goosen has been working with Caan, working with Caan to be able to fight in the pocket. His analogy is that staying inside a hurricane can be safer than being on the outside. He made it clear that he has no intention of changing Caan's outside style, but he's trying to teach Amir how to keep calm and cover up or even do a bit of damage when he's in the pocket. I think this is exactly the sort of coaching that Caan needs to improve his all-around game. He's an excellent outside fighter, but looks vulnerable when he gets caught on the inside, so this could actually be a perfect preparation for Lo Greco and other fights in his future. Do you agree, or is it too late in Caan's career to be taught this technique and maybe a bit too dangerous? I've always said that when a fighter gets into some trouble, he goes into automatic mode, and if he's developed some bad habits over time, that unfortunately he'll shift into that automatic mode. And by not teaching Amir Khan a good defense in the beginning of his career is still haunting him. However, with this particular theory, I like it, and I also like his analogy with a hurricane. Now, as long as he's also teaching him how to protect himself from the types of punches that he would see while fighting on the inside and out of his comfort zone, which he likes to fight on the outside and use his hand speed, I think this would benefit him if it clicks with Amir Khan. What's your thoughts?
I think it would benefit him. I think it's a good point that you made across the board. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I could definitely see things falling that way.
All right, we got one more email, and this is from a new, he's not a new listener, but he's a new emailer. He says, "Hey, Billy C., this is Johnny from Ucapia in Southern California. I've been listening to your show for a couple of years now. I really like the show, and I'm a subscriber on your YouTube channel." We appreciate that. We're trying to build the YouTube channel presence, so if you are catching the show, go over to YouTube and subscribe, because we're trying to grow that. We've been on YouTube for a while, but we never really cared too much. But right now, I like the audience, and we like what's happening in YouTube. So definitely subscribe. He says, "I got a question for Sal." Uh-oh. He says, "In high school, everybody hears about the high school quarterback." And by the way, I love this question. I cheated and read this question before. I actually
you did
teased Sal about this yesterday. But he says, in high school, everybody hears about the high school quarterback or other school team heroes because of the familiarity of the athletes playing the games on campus. He wants to ask Sal, what was it like as a teenager and being a teenage top amateur boxer? None of the amateurs' fights are on campus, so I'm curious, did your classmates hear about your boxing success? Are amateur boxers famous on campus? And did classmates admire you like they do the high school team athletes a la football star quarterbacks, etc., etc.? Thanks for any insight. Johnny. John, I just want to say before Sal responds, this is a great question because Sal has talked many times about his amateur career and the success that he had, and we've never. I gotta be honest. I never even thought of presenting this question to Sal, and I love it. Sal, the ball's in your court, man. What was it like?
That's a great question, and to reflect back and realize, you know, the popularity of one's merit or efforts and recognition on the high school level as you were evolving and developing as a teen. You know, I had a beautiful pathway because I did have a lot of success in high school sports, whether it was with my wrestling career. I did a little pole vaulting, but mostly it was because of my boxing and wrestling. My wrestling, I went undefeated for the most part. Senior year, I won some championships. I went to the state championship level at Jadwin Gym in Princeton University. Had some scholarships. So wrestling was always a big part. But intertwined with the wrestling was the outside sport of boxing. And at 16 years old, when I won the Golden Gloves, the state championship, I did have a few of my friends, my best friends, ringside there, and I did have the high schoolers, and we came from a big, highly competitive, not only era in school, but very highly competitive Northeast in the Pascagoula Valley region of school in the NBIL, big league of sports, and my name and my reputation as a boxer was often celebrated and often talked about, even though boxing was not on a school campus or level on any way, shape, or form. It was completely a selective and elective choice of where young fighters on an amateur basis would have to seek out a gym, would have to seek out trainers, would have to seek out fights and know what's going on and what's being offered and what's going to be like to climb the rings of the ladder. And those were all in front of me. And with the good grace and help and support of my father, he enabled me to go follow my dream and do that. Taking me to all the fight cards on a Friday night. We would fight almost every Friday night with the AAU. Having me compete in the AAU state championships, the Golden Glove championships, the national championships. I mean, my father was always a great advocate and supporter of me. But my high school reputation grew, and yes, I was celebrated as a boxer as well as a wrestler, and just overall, I tried to be the best I could be in anything I did, and that was pretty much my my moniker, my reputation.
Yeah, you know, when I was in school, we had a guy who went to school with me. And he was a pretty didn't reach the success level that you did from a national point of view in the amateurs, but he was well known as a boxer, and everybody knew him, and we still, you know, all knew the star quarterbacks and basketball players, et cetera, et cetera. And as it would turn out, this guy I'm talking about actually is a piece of boxing history. It's a good. It's a good trivia question. The question is, who was the only fighter to make his pro debut against a former world heavyweight champion and won?
Oh, wow.
The answer is the fight was against Leon Spinks. Leon Spinks fought my man, my friend, and my friend knocked him out, and he became a piece of history. His name, John Carlo, and John Carlo is a guy who's my age. Actually, he's got a year on me, and is in very good shape. He's an expert in all different types of arts, not only boxing. And one thing he told me a long time ago, he says, "You know what, Bill?" He says, "Anybody." You know, they could be, and this is a guy that was an expert in different types of martial arts, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, I'll tell you what. He says, you could be great in jiu-jitsu or any martial art or even mixed martial arts. He says, but a quality boxer will always beat any other type of combat fighting. And, it always stuck with me. And it's true, Sal. A good disciplined boxer can beat any of those other guys, I think.
I think I agree, and on this level, and let me tell you why. Because when you are a good boxer, I mean, you're standing fundamentally. You're a sound fighter. You have I use the term kinesthetic sense. You know your whereabouts, what's going on around you. You have an instinct that if something's coming at you, you know how to get out of the way. You know how to slip. You know how to do something. You know how to counter. And those are all attributes that a good boxer would be able to utilize and call upon his skills. Having some other guy lure him in or strike or feint on him, he should be able to counter. He should be able to assess. He should be able to quickly assess and learn where his strengths are going to be and how he's going to offset that opponent. That's just the instinctive nature of good, balanced boxers. And I could agree with that statement.
Yeah, no doubt. It always made an impact on me. And, I've seen some clips of guys trying to do MMA against fighters, street type stuff, and the fighters always seem to win. The boxers, I mean.
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, there's a ground game, there's a whole game, and I got a message on Facebook the other day because of my wrestling career in high school, and it was from a fellow wrestler, David Weck. And he was a year younger than me, and we were both on a varsity team. And there was some kind of anniversary of maybe my boxing match that we had on April 13th, that comeback fight 5 years ago. Do you believe it's already 5 years, Billy? It's going to be time for playing another comeback once I get shoulder surgery.
Yeah, you should.
But but what David was referring to was the fact that, Sal, you could almost be the founder with your skill and your skill set and your level. You were the first father of MMA fighting because I was a wrestler and a boxer all in one. And a lot of times I would use some boxing moves in my wrestling ring, and I would use some without striking somebody, of course, and I would use some wrestling in my boxing, inside and slipping and moving and doing things and feinting and faking. So it was funny that he should say that. But yeah, I think a good, astute boxer is a solid combatant on any level with any sport.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I'm not really familiar with anything other than boxing, so I guess I'm kind of not giving an honest shot at that. I'm going by what my man told me.
No, wrestling is a great sport too, and I encourage my one son. He wants to be a fighter, and we're going to take him to a gym now. And he's a pretty strong kid, and he's got what it takes. He's got some tools to really, I think, be a decent fighter, a real good fighter. But I want him to hone in and learn some wrestling too, because in wrestling you're going to achieve balance. You're going to know leverage. You're going to have some moves. You're going to, even tying up or elbows or things like that. Those are inside qualities that you could utilize in a game of boxing.
Think about that for a second. And I'm not. Hey, listen, I agree with what you're saying about the fundamental part, but real quickly, think of a wrestler, and I'm not talking about a WWE wrestler. I'm talking about what you're talking about, and the nature of wrestling. And you put a guy who's a champion wrestler in a boxing ring. Now, you see, that's always the other issue, because if you put him on a wrestling mat, the wrestler wins, right? But if you put him in a boxing ring or you put him on the street, the wrestler is going to try to get the fighter down. He's going to try to get him to the ground because that's where his strength will be. A fighter will try to stay on his feet. And the nature of a wrestler, trying to come in, don't you think a good boxer could just, as long as he had the room to move around, could pepper him and keep him at bay without a wrestler charging him like a bull?
Well, I do, and I know that you're looking at headlocks, you're looking at hands, you're looking at having a wrestler try to, and which would never be illegal in a regular boxing ring. It would be a warning and ultimately points and disqualification. You've got to tie up people, and and you've got to put your palm, your hand behind his neck, and duck unders and grab elbows and things like that. Those are things you can get away with as a boxer if you learn them as a fundamentally sound defense or offense to finagle your way through the ring and around an opponent and to get in position to strike them real hard. But as a fighter facing a wrestler coming at you with the intent of getting you off your feet, because that's what wrestlers do. They score points by, it's called a takedown. And that's the start of a wrestling match. And then once you're on the ground, you know, you're supposed to try to pin your opponent and turn him over to his back or tie him up or get riding time or whatever else you can by not having him control the match, but you controlling him. So it's a whole thing. But I think a good boxer, as you suggested, could most likely pepper a guy and not give him the chance to grab him and to extend him. He'll have to be fast. He'll have to be concise. He'll have to be quick. But he'll have to definitely be able to expose and strike a wrestler as the wrestler's coming at him with the intent of getting him off his feet.
Just a programming note, we are not doing a live show tomorrow, but we will be back to close the week. I will be giving you my fight breakdowns and predictions on the big fight scheduled for this weekend. And in case y'all forgot, Amir Khan's fight is on that new streaming network. So, FYI. But we're back to the trivia question. So if you're the first one to answer this trivia question correctly, you're going to win a copy of your Title Bout Championship computer game, the very same game that Alex uses for our Blast from the Past, which will be back next week. Here's the question. Before my 20th birthday, I beat 4 world champions and lost to another one, who I also defeated just 1 month past my 20th birthday. Who am I? If you're the first one to email me the correct answer, Billy@TalkinBoxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. You'll win your very own copy of the Title Bout game. Remember, you have to email because we go by the timestamp. Now, this is a tough question, just like the last one, but we finally got a winner on that one. So here's the question one more time. No hints yet. Before my 20th birthday, I beat 4 world champions and lost to another one, who I also defeated just 1 month past my 20th birthday. Who am I? If you're the first one to email me the correct answer, Billy@TalkinBoxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. You'll win the prize. Listen, no live show tomorrow. We're over our time now. Make sure you tune in Friday. You know the deal. Make sure you tune in Friday morning. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.